that we're interested in looking at. Some people aren't, and I understand that. Some people could care less because they'd rather do whatever they want now. I'd rather think ahead. I'd rather plan for the future and know what's going to happen in the future. He said, I failed to give the full definition of science. I suspect you were implying that I was lying there. I'm not at all lying. Of religion. Does evolution try to answer where we go when we die? Well, it does give an answer to that. It says you go nowhere. Does evolution try to answer how there is a higher power? Yeah, it does. It says that you are the highest power. It says that your reasoning, your ability to think, is the supreme being. It is the highest power. Think with me here just a little bit on what is necessary to come to conclusions. What is necessary for you to be able to observe the world around you? What is necessary? You got 5 senses, right? Some people have 6. Most people got the 5 senses. Let me ask you, how do you trust your senses? How can you trust the thoughts that you come to and the conclusions that you make? How are those actually trustworthy? You say, oh, my senses determine that. Well, now we're begging the question, and if we're talking real logic, seeking out real truth, we'd have to admit that we are begging the question by saying, X is true because X is true. My senses are true because my senses are true. And it doesn't really get us anywhere. Ultimately, you have to get down to an ultimate standard. What they call a presupposition. Everybody has a presupposition. And I'll tell you right now, if it weren't for the God of the Bible, we could not know anything. Well, think about this, and I know that's a bold statement. Okay, I realize that's a bold statement, but think about it. How can we actually have knowledge if we really did evolve over billions of years, and our brains are just a couple pounds of chemicals that got together by chance over billions of years? How can you trust your own thoughts and the conclusions you come to?
It happens over and over again.
Now you're begging the question. Now you're talking about something that happens in the past. How do you know in the future you will be able to? You can't even do science if the God of the Bible were not real. Here's the problem. Atheists argue against Christianity. The problem is they stand on Christianity to make their argument. Atheists argue against the God of the Bible, but they're standing on the God of the Bible to make those claims. It would be like me standing right here arguing against the existence of air. However, I have to use air to argue against it. A few moments ago, well, check this out. A few minutes ago, Mike and I were talking. I said, Mike, is child molestation wrong? He said, absolutely. Here's the problem, and I hope you would agree with this. With an atheistic worldview, can we say that it's absolutely wrong?
Yes.
Yes, we can. We're going to have to ask, why is that absolutely wrong?
Fucks up that little kid's head.
And why is that wrong? What makes that wrong? You have to go down to another level.
You have to have God so you don't molest children?
I'm telling you, you have just proved my point. You have used the God of the Bible that gives us a moral absolute standard in order to argue against the God of the Bible's absolute standard. Every single one of us in here knows that that there are moral absolutes. The problem is the atheist worldview cannot account for them. The Christian worldview is the only worldview that can account for immaterial, universal, and unchanging laws of logic, mathematics, and morality.
What about this?
Hey, I disagree with him too, but why are we not interrupting him?
Correct.
Let's keep this nice and the Freethinkers Club prides themselves in good debates, so if you guys can, abide by those.
We'll have audience questions afterwards. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. I look forward to talking about moralism because if I don't believe in God, it makes me immoral, and I can't molest a child. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. But I hope to find time to get quite prepared to talk about that. Let me talk about this. Some of you I know might be wondering why there isn't a scientist up here debating and defending evolution against this. I can't speak for all the scientists on the faculty, but I think the reason they choose to not engage in such a debate is the scientists simply have no need to debate science with non-scientists. It's not part of the process. That's my opinion, though. You have to ask a scientist. And it also might just be the fact that the flyer that encouraged them to come out and debate was full of things they don't believe in, and a pirate symbol, which I guess that meant actually he wanted to debate. And evolution isn't even a word. So, no, most scientists are not going to take that kind of thing seriously, I think. Also, a reason is that scientists don't debate in 5-minute sound bites. Their form of debate involves a really important process. They openly publish their research, required to be repeatable and independently reviewed by their peers, so that the general public can be assured that the theories presented are valid. You can't get to that kind of science in 5-minute sound bites like this. You just can't get to it. What is good for 5-minute sound bites? Advertising, selling things, that's what I'm about. Ideas, products, DVDs, propaganda. The propaganda is sort of a dirty word, it's sort of these days, but it's really just another word for advertising, for persuasive advertising. Look at some of those definitions. TV ads that we see every day, political ads and speeches, viral videos, much of that fits the definition of propaganda. We're hearing a lot of that today. Trust me, 5-minute chunks of propaganda are the preferred form of communication for hot-smoking pastafarians and other creationists. It works really well for that. It fits on a DVD too, $39.95 or $34.95. Plus shipping and handling, again, on their website, both of them. I, on the other hand, have nothing to sell you, but hopefully a little bit of fact. Although I would encourage you to sign up for a real science class by a real scientist, that we are a college after all, that are available. Real science is far too complex and complicated for 5-minute sound bites. To get past that. And they're too complicated for Eric's Creation Minute segments. He does one of these on his website, and they're very, you can see them at creationism.com. They are entertaining. They have nice graphics, strong color scheme, cute logo, flash animation, 3D modeling, video graphics. And put those all together, and what you get? Creation science. That's all it is, as far as I'm concerned. It's something out of nothing, really. There's nothing there, but it's something. He clearly has a good eye for graphic communication. Now, I might actually invite him to one of my classes to speak to my students. This is great persuasive design. Mike, not so good at it. He's going to have to work on his talent, I think. But Eric's got it, yeah. I don't think it's wrong to sell things, but what Eric is trying to sell is a brand of science, which it's religion and a little box with a label on it that says science. It's not science. He's using, if you're a Christian, he's using your common bond and your personal relationship with God as a vehicle to gain your respect and your patronage. He wants you to drive you to a website. I think that's what it's about. Science is hard. It takes decades of research. It takes study and testing and years of work. And I don't think Eric has the time for that because he's too busy traveling around doing these debates. Geologists, these are some of the greatest minds in science, and they all study evolution. They are considered some of the strongest minds in human history. And they all understand this theory, and they know that it's fact. All Eric has to do, past that, is jump on a plane, as he said, look down, look at the valleys and the mountains and the fields, and that's all the facts he needs to know that God created it, and that the Great Flood created the Grand Canyon. That's a dark photo. And
Thank you, Don.
that's not science. That's just laziness. That's water.
Okay, I'd like to address something that Don brought up earlier. As soon as my computer stopped working out. Just a moment. with respect to definitions. He pointed out a definition that Mr. Hovind used in ARC, I believe you might remember, a little while back. And he insinuated that it was disingenuous. As you correctly pointed out, he was insinuating he may have been lying. Now, while I was sitting here, I took a look at the actual definition that was used last debate, and found that he did, in fact, edit it just a little bit. He just cut out the part about God when he, used that to say that science is a religion. But I really think, folks, he was really just trying to save us time, because when it comes down to it, you don't want to have to read all those extra words. Now, for those of you in the audience that are interested in getting into mine and Eric's line of work, I discussed this very issue in the add-on to my lecture series entitled Reduce, Reuse, Redefine. And you can't find that on my website. Anyhow, I'd like to point out that Mr. Button is being disingenuous himself. You see, the tack he's taking is what's called an ad hominem attack. He's attacking